Once transportation cost drops, once you get to the filling station, there is fuel, you switch off your electricity, there's power, companies will be competitive. They won't stop comparing Nigeria with Ghana. Because the scale that Nigeria offers, Nigeria has an economy that is 15 times as large as the economy of Ghana. Yet Ghana attracts similar levels of foreign direct investment as Nigeria. You should attract at least 10 times as large. So, and the reason why this country is unfriendly to investment, they are not far-fetched. Fixed transportation cost, fixed energy cost. And you can sit back and watch manufacturing and export grow.
Let's quickly look at trying to break it down in a language that so many people can also understand. You know, just recently we saw proliferation of online retail shops that people can actually get to buy goods and even services, and we have seen how much of jobs that has created for a lot of people. Just recently we just realized that lately loads and loads of them have started losing jobs because the volume of demands has reduced drastically to the extent that a lot of people are not even engaged anymore. Do you think that the policy, because now we try to look at the CBN policy and even the federal government policy lately has helped small businesses as well as the local investors that have just started to get a hold of what it is like to doing business in the country?
Well, I do not think that the interventions, that's the restrictions, has helped anyone. It hasn't helped anyone. Be that as it may, in economic policy management, you still have to understand that the government needs to be orderly in addressing the situation. There has to be some transition from where you are now that is undesirable to where you want to be that is desirable in an orderly fashion. So it's not as if there's a switch, you can press and everything changes. But whatever it is we want to do, whatever the transition plan is, the government needs to speak to it now.
Because because we recall we had a policy that some economists like yourself had termed inimical, to the extent that goods and services coming into our ports were diverted to other ports like Cotonou, Cameroon, and some other places. And now the headline is that people are going to other African countries to get forex. That is why we're asking, how soon can they see that these are addressed, so that businesses that were thriving here before don't fizzle out?
Well, I do not think that anybody in government will claim that they are not aware of what's happening. But the key issue is that somebody has to come out and speak to it, and take responsibility for the harm that's already been done, and proffer give us a prognosis, and
what's your
offer
take?
Solutions.
What's your take on the propping up of the naira by with our forex reserves? Because if we understand that in 2015 alone, forex reserves dipped by as much as 15%. What would you say to our current drive to continue to prop up the naira?
Right. My big issue with the way the central bank has chosen to manage the naira is that the central bank speaks about the reserves and the exchange rate situation as if it's only about trading. And I think they get it wrong in that regard. It's not all about trading. Capital flows matter. And the restrictive policies that were put in place, rather than attract capital inflow, actually scared capital away from Nigeria, eroded confidence of wealth holders in holding naira-denominated assets. Countries that get comfortable reserve position are countries that have regard for capital flows, that they solicit and cut capital flows and encourage people who bring their money into, their jurisdiction, that, to retain confidence in their ability to manage it. That's the neglected dimension, in the face of the increased demand for forex. The central bank was announcing a list of items that you cannot, source official forex to import. And that's very wrong. Most of the people who are demanding the forex did not intend to import anything. They just wanted to get out of the naira. And if you put a form in front of them and say, what do you want to, they will pick stuff, toothpicks, rice and stuff. But the key issue is that they wanted to get out of the naira into another currency. And that's the issue that the central bank has yet to speak to, to reassure people that if you held the naira, it should be, by the time you start telling people that they cannot use their debit cards abroad, do you think that's going to encourage them to hold more money in naira? It's going to scare them to even flee the naira the more. So we need to, tone down the trade end of it, put these restrictions away and speak more to the confidence issue that will enable people to bring money in Nigeria and keep money in Nigeria.
Well, finally, should we remove subsidy, the fuel subsidy?
I think that's a very superficial question. Subsidy is included in the price of an item. You cannot be discussing forex without discussing the supply of, and you can't be discussing the naira without discussing the supply of the naira. And you shouldn't discuss subsidy without discussing the supply of petroleum products. So the key issue is that we are a major producer of crude oil, and we import refined products. That's something. Nigeria has been very successful in LNG production in the past 16 years. We constructed the first 2 trains, between 95 and 99. And we saw, steady growth from 2 trains to 6 trains. Why are we successful? That's also petroleum. Yeah, this gas. And we fail so catastrophically in refining. So the debate Nigerians should engage in is how can Nigeria successfully refine its requirements of petrol at home. Once it's available here, you will kill discussions about subsidy. There is no need to subsidize in the phase of steady production. It's only when production is unsteady that you begin to engage in time-wasting discussion about subsidy. So how soon will it take Nigeria? Why has Nigeria failed so catastrophically where we have succeeded in LNG? If you need to do an incorporated joint venture to deliver on refineries like the incorporated joint venture is delivering on LNG, go ahead. But by all means, we should, be sure that the product is flowing before we start saying, should we subsidize?
All right, Dr. Teriba, CEO of Economic Associates, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.